If that water wet, it's got gators in it.
Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
They shouldn't have given you ashy blokes YouTube.
Cursed be the ground for our sake. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for us. For out of the ground we were taken, for the dust we are. And to the dust we shall return.
I'm done with life, and it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault. I'm done.
All right, you dusty denizens, you dusty Jermaines, you ashy Jeffries, and you dirty foot Jose's. Back in the building. Just punching the clock on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I know you guys are out, probably traveling, maybe in the car, listening in, so I was going to do this yesterday, but I'm going to do it today. Probably should have done it yesterday, but just going to review Dr. Curry and Terrain Walker's video on blackmail death and the sacrifice, and them literally sacrificing our bodies for causes. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So, but we got 100 in the building. That's not bad for Thanksgiving weekend. Okay. I might do a live tomorrow. I might do an old-fashioned Coliseum tomorrow on Thursday. We'll see. Mel, what's going on? Shannon Green, what's happening? Batting second. Martin Muhammad, what's going on? Batting third. Shannon Moore, batting cleanup, what's going on? Adric, what's going on? Fernandez, what's going on? What's going on, Trell? Ryan, what's going on? Saint Cyr, what's happening? Ronan, what's happening, Ronan? Where you been? I think that's Ronan, yeah. What's going on, Ronan? Barry Little, what's happening? John Smith, Enigma, DC, what's going on? Gundam, what's going on? Gregory, what's going on? Chaz, what's going on? Instant Media, what's going on? There's a Snowman, what's happening? Snowman, tell me where you actually talked about Shador Sanders and his performance on Sunday, and what do you think? Oh, the Snowman he got the heat. Okay, you got the heat. Gonna come out as a closer and with the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Inspirational Truth, what's going on? Happy Turkey, yep. LAXT, what's going on? Jesse, what's happening? Terrell, what's happening? H&F, what's going on? Eddie, what's going on, man? How is it in Gotham? Sexy Silk, what's going on? Willie R, what's going on? Due to my dusty regions time, once again, intellectually dissect the gynocracy one more and free all black male minds. Kind, yeah, that's true. The gynocracy is trying to spread its evil talons, though. Michael, what's going on? That's enough. I hope no one among us decides to deep fry the turkey tomorrow. The number of fires being set off from stupidity has been going down these past few years. Let's keep that keep it that way. They have they actually have special devices to fry turkeys now, man. Y'all have to do it the old-fashioned way, okay? They have go to Amazon and buy you. In fact, you can go to Temu, buy you a turkey fryer, okay? Uh, it's a little large, but it goes inside. It's covered. Pour your oil in it and have it fry your turkey, okay? Stop the madness. DJ Scan, what's up? Palm Beach Mike, what's going on? The Black Toxic, what's happening? The Maestro, what's going on? Mr. J Matt, what's happening? And the dust will prevail. Yes, sir. VHS going off lately. Yeah, man. You know how it is, man. Old men get cantankerous. Tooth Triv, what's going on? Miguel, Victor Creed, what's going on? Get them likes up. I heard that. Precisely, what's going on? All Star God, what's going on? John Smith, what's happening? Are you gonna do that tonight? Yeah, you know, I figure I want to see if he can ball out. I can say one thing about Shedeur Sanders, okay? You can't say you didn't get no chance, okay? I won't hear none of that shit no more. Oh, they railroaded him. Oh, they blackballed him. He's got he's played 2 games, okay? He's got one full start, okay? One full start, okay? They can't say squat, okay? Either you ball out or you don't. Can't be blackballed and starting for the NFL team, okay? Ain't no such thing. Mike of Malice, what's going on? What up? He's about where I thought he would be. I mean, he's about he looks like a 5th round pick. Okay. Y'all really think these women are cooking for Thanksgiving? You know what? After listening to all these cheating stories, I think the men are cooking probably more than the women are. Beaches, are you going to like what I made for the nameless protagonist? I don't know what you made for the nameless protagonist, man. Put a link in. Oh, I'm gonna like what you made. Okay, I haven't seen it yet. Be surprised how many people set the house and it was over. I'm not surprised, man. Negroes will be Negroes. Okay, a YouTube video is not going to do it. Let's see what else we got. Emmanuel, what's going on? Big Mo, what's going on? Okay, you'll email me. Okay, all right. 'Cause I have not seen it, so I can't comment on it. Anyhow, let us get busy and get the ball rolling. I said, All Star guest. Let me tell you, be just the men at my age, 32, know how to cook way better than the man. They have not the man. We have a pitiful, okay, millennials on down, man. There are pitiful excuses for women. I do mean pitiful. It took my daughter a long time to cook, and her mother, my mother, uh, 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 her mother, okay, knew how to cook. Okay, my mother and her mother taught her how to cook. It's the only way uh, my 2 daughters know how to cook. Right now, our 2 daughters know how to cook. Okay, because they had good, had good training. Okay, because their mother was actually taught by her grandmother. So the silent generation taught. My kids how to cook, but the boomers were so, but man, these millennials, most of them, millennial women and Gen Z women, horrible, horrible wives, man, horrible. I see why the marriage rate is going down, man. And then they want you to wine and dine them and treat them like they're special snowflakes. Get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here. They're the ones should be paying. Now y'all should be charging these broads, man. If you got to cook and clean, y'all should be charging these chicks, man. They don't know how to cook and clean, man. You ain't just, you can buy coochie cheaper than that. Okay, a chick couldn't cook and clean, man. She can take that coochie someplace else, man. And I'll buy it on the side. Ain't gonna bring her in my house and can't cook and clean. One thing to say about all my boomer women, they all knew how to cook and clean. At bare minimum, they knew how to cook and clean. Bare minimum. They might be restaurant quality chefs, but they could put together a meal. These chicks, man, I feel sorry for y'all, man. I feel sorry for y'all, man. If I were y'all, I'd be if I was a millennial or I was a Gen Z, man, I'd be a dirty foot Jose in a heartbeat. I'd be a dirty foot Jose in a heartbeat, man. Give me a chick that can cook and clean, man. Come on, Maria. Come on, Maria. Nah, she can't cook and clean. She got to pay, man. I'll cook and clean, but you got to pay. Hell, there should be a whole bunch of stay-at-home husbands. Are you gonna build it from scratch or what? Are you gonna build it from scratch or you gonna buy it? Yeah, let me get out of here. All right, good people. Let me go ahead and get started with this. And this is Terrain Walker's. This is his latest. Okay. All right, Mice. I'll look at it. This is the latest from Terrain and Dr. Curry. I show it because I actually want them to continue their. I said, there's a Francesca that will get you heavy out there. Ramen noodles and Prego spaghetti sauce. That's about all they're good for, man. And man, that's shameful, man. The chicks want all this snowflake treatment, okay, and want to be a wife. They're not a fucking wife. No. That's why they call themselves partners. They don't know how to cook and clean. They're not wives. They're partners. So I might agree with them. Most of these chicks are partners. Let me go ahead and start. This is Terrain Walker. So, a Black Male Study Session, episode 5. Okay. I think we did 2 of them. And go support him because Dr. Curry, evidently Dr. Curry trusts him because Dr. Curry doesn't come on very much on YouTube, okay, or social media very much. So evidently if Dr. Curry is going to make a regular series with Terrain, that means he trusts him. So we got one more PhD halfway in the buildings, okay? So go support him and support their efforts. So here we go.
Professor Tommy J. Curry, PhD, MPH, Personal Chair of Africana Philosophy and Black Male Studies, Department of Philosophy at the University of Edinburgh School of Philosophy, Psychology, and Language Sciences. He is the editor of Black Male Studies, a series exploring the paradoxes of racially subjugated males, the editor of Decolonial Philosophy and Philosophy Compass, and most of you know him as the author of The Man Not, Race, Class, Genre, and the Dilemmas of Black Manhood, the winner of the 2018 American Book Award. Dr. Curry, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to have this conversation. It's always a pleasure to be able to chop it up with you on these subjects. So let's get into it. You said that this young man's tragic death is a harbinger of things that have connotations going all the way back to the beginning of this country when it comes to Black men and Black male bodies. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that and how that streaks back?
Yeah. Let me just say that this news hit me a little hard. For over a month, I've really been thinking about Mr. Reed's death because back in the late '90s, the first year I went off to college, a Black man was lynched not too far from my hometown of Lake Charles in Jasper, Texas. James Byrd was walking home from a party. 3 white men tied his ankles to the back of a truck.
Oh yeah.
And dragged this Black man
until his body broke apart. Yep.
man until his limbs were falling off. Um, the 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 imagery of black men being killed and dismembered does not truly convey the kind of horror and anger that happens to Southern poor black people when they see another lynching. And I remember it so clearly, the death of Mr. Byrd, because I had just come back from college, and literally 2 weeks. It was in June or July. I think it was in June. Um, and we heard about this brother being dragged, so his hands and part of his neck was torn off. And ever since I was in the university and been in the university, I've been haunted by the kind of violence that black men and boys suffer. When we look, it's not just when we go back to the Middle Passage, because
You notice in the thumbnail, basically, there's educated Keisha and Becky right next to him, right? Okay. The educated Keisha's right along with him, holding the torch.
what often happens, and I feel that I'm becoming more and more impatient about this tendency. In the academy, we have scholars who try to disown or reappropriate the violence that black men have experienced as a general racial phenomenon.
Yeah.
So they will use literal
Yeah. Dr. Johnson calls it flat blackness. Okay. When it's our fault, it's a you. When it's when it's they want to appropriate our struggle, it's a we. Okay. It's always a we when there's money involved.
criticism, psychoanalysis, etc., to dissipate the horrors of castration, the disproportionality of lynchings, and even police killings. Right? We saw this with Crenshaw say her name. It doesn't just bring attention to the suffering of our sisters, and I think at this point, there's not very many academics that deny that black women suffered from various crimes like lynching, etc. But what it does do is it takes away the disproportionality of black men being targeted by systems of lynching, castration, etc. So when you look on the slave ship, for instance, right, and you think about the barrier, the barricado between the black men who were chained to each other, the women and children who were behind a barricado or a wood plank that white people could also take refuge around if black men tried to revolt. You see, the slave system had already identified before we ever got to the New World that black men were physical threats capable of revolt. We saw this again in 1791 with the Haitian Revolution and the question of whether or not the freedom that black men tried to create in the Republic of Haiti was akin to the demons rising from below to doom Western civilization. And in every century, the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, and now in the 21st, black men are being sacrificed as symbols of white supremacy's triumph over the black race. And it's not just an argument about racism. I always think back. I used to teach AJ William Myers' book Destructive Impulses, right? And he has this great line in there where he says that white men and women were able to destroy black men because he was basically a nigger on the loose, and they were trying to control a beast with a cloven hoof, right? And I remember talking to my students about the imagery of black men for 400 or 500 years, right? That there's a cosmology where black men are demons, demonic spirits, right? And we see this in the work of someone like Dr. Ronald Neal. So we're not dealing with a measurable hatred. We're dealing with a fundamental view among white America that black men's presence has to be eliminated. And you see this back in the 70s with the work of James Stewart. You've seen this in the work of Jim Sedanius. You've seen this in the work of Anthony LaMelle Jr. You've seen this in my work. And despite all the suffering that we see in America right now, despite all the histories we want to excavate, there has not been a reckoning with the continued death of black men and boys. After Colin Kaepernick paid for this autopsy, there was no national outrage, right? We're still talking about Trump. We're still talking about what's being lost. We see our own people suffering, and we've made no connection between the deaths of black men and boys that we've witnessed for a decade. Think about this: black children spitting up blood on American streets because they've been shot by white cops. We've seen no awakening in the consciousness of black Americans about what's really at stake when we're talking about white supremacy and racism. We are past the intersectional ideas of discrimination. We are past debates about recognition. We are now in a world where segregation, where gerrymandering, where white vigilantism, and the continued lynching of black men sends a signal to the world that America is still a white republic. And we have no answers for that. We have a crime, a horror that's haunted the United States for decades, where black men have been over 95% of the victims of lynching since the 1870s. And despite that, when it happens yet again in the 21st century, where we swear to ourselves that we've made racial progress, we've had no analysis that even attempts to ask the question, why are black male deaths so required for America to rule over black people? There hasn't been one theoretical venture, one political movement, one pundit on national TV to ask, what is the need for this repetition of black men and boys to be sacrificed to America's greed and its tyranny so that the society somehow can operate normally? And that failure is going to get more and more of our people killed. You know, Tori, it's difficult to sit back and, I'm in Scotland, right? And it's very difficult for me to see what's going on in the United States and then see people still launch identity politics against the wave of white supremacy. I see people defining themselves outside of blackness consistently, as if the old tricks that appeal to their liberal masters somehow will operate and work now that you have new conservative overseers.
That's true. That is true. That is true. Black women were trying to be a constituent outside of blackness.
And the dullness, the inability to comprehend the moment that we're in, when you see black male bodies hanging from trees, is
Mhm.
astounding to me. Racism targets men and boys first, but its
Yeah.
intent is to oppress and eliminate the rest of the group. We've been over this. We've seen it in military science. We've seen it in genocide. So we see it even in the work that Dr. Gilmore's doing up in Toronto in counterinsurgency. This is an established pattern of human conflict. But because we have people that are so married to systems of coalitions and hopes, and may I say, dependency on white liberal recognition.
Yep. Black women. Can you say black black female intelligentsia? Okay. So all they can talk about, right? Look at all your black female pundits.
We don't have the ability to respond to what's actually happening to our people and in our communities. And I think that the worst hasn't even shown up yet.
I want to ask you about that because what's happening now almost seems like a throwback to the old horrors that happened at the end of the Civil War, at the end of Reconstruction when federal troops were pulled out of the South, up until the 1920s
Hmm.
to the modern day, almost to the 1960s rather. And it seems like
Yeah.
what's happening, if you look at the patterns, ties right into some of the things that happened in the bad old days when lynching was a very commonplace thing. You would see a dead body, black male body hanging from a tree. If it wasn't sort of like a local festival where people would come out and celebrate his death, it would just be a body hanging from a tree. There was very little investigation done by the law enforcement at that time. And 9 times out of 10, it was either swept under the rug, it was never investigated other than pulling the body down and burying it. Or what you see
Hmm.
like in the present day now, where I'm looking at the data right now from Mississippi. The young black men that I talked about who were found hanging from trees in Mississippi, and this is all in Mississippi so far. 8 black male bodies from the year 2000 up until 2025 with this young man, Mr. Reed. Every last
Yeah.
one has been judged a suicide by the coroners in the state and the counties that they were found in. That
Hmm.
sounds very much like a throwback to, well, he slipped on a bar of soap or he died trying to escape, of some of the old cliches that you see when it comes to the deaths of black men. Do you think that these cliches are coming back because the country is reverting back to an old system of white supremacy, or just in a different form?
Listen, I'll be honest with you, brother. I don't think they ever went away in the South. That's much of my perspective about race relations and about white violence comes from the fact that I was born at the end of segregation.
Yeah, that's why I'm not fond of the South. Okay, because I know I can't adjust.
So for Southern black people, there was always the horror. There's always the threat that you can be killed or castrated if you talk to a white woman or you were out of pocket with a white man. So I think that we see the increased symbolism.
Which is why I tell brothers be careful if you're gonna get a white spouse in the Midwest or the South. You got to be goddamn sure that she's is an ally. If not, man, don't fuck with her. She holds way too much power over you. Way too much.
Of what this means to white America. So I think when you see someone like a Mr. Trey Reed, and it happens when you're at kind of the apex of white violence in America, where white people are saying that black civil rights was before Charlie Kirk was shot, where he was making statements that the civil rights movement was a mistake. When Project 2025 is saying that, the idea of equality is a mistake. When you have white supremacists saying that they have a right to own America and that it's a white republic. I think when you have that language and you have the intent in white Americans now saying that there was a mistake for letting black people even pretend that they should be equal to white people, then that lynching, right, that lynching of Mr. Reed means something different because you can't depend on the moral conscience of white people or liberal white people to now say that those other white people are fundamentally wrong. Because now that conservative whites have power, there is no liberal entertainment that's trying to push back on white violence. They're not risking their necks for black people. And this is why I said the difference now is that we don't have black solidarity, black racial consciousness, whatever term you would like to use, that's offended that black men are still being hung from trees.
Well, because your sisters are sold out, man. Sisters sold out for Becky. And then once she did, they got all the women in the house. Then Donald Trump and the rest turned on her. You don't see these Democrats in there really standing up for black women in their jobs. Okay, they barely say anything. They're not here. Becky, Becky trying to cover her own ass right now, to be honest. But yeah, and as white supremacy is declining, okay, they're going to get much more vicious. I've been saying that. Okay, be careful because white supremacy is on a decline. I mean, rapidly, and these guys, just like a wounded tiger or a wounded lion. Okay, they lash out. So be very careful. I said, remember, coroners are elected in many states. Yeah, even if they're not elected, okay, they cover up. They're white too.
We have black people in black studies and in black universities that hate black men just as much as white people do. We have classes in these courses saying that black men are dangerous, rapists, deviants,
Yeah,
criminals.
yeah,
You
yeah,
pick your poison.
yeah,
So you can't dehumanize the population within your own group
yeah.
and then expect people to come together.
Say it again, black man. Say it again, okay? Say it again. You can't expect to dehumanize your men and then expect them to come together with you. Say it again, black man.
Because they're offended that their lives were taken. Even now, we don't have a conversation about these young black men and boys being
Yep.
innocent,
Yeah.
having potential,
Nope.
being a loss to the potential of our race.
Nope.
So none of those conversations have even been had. And the crazy thing is, I saw on Instagram that there were some pictures from the Kimberly Crenshaw's AAPF. And it was
Mm-hmm.
talking about the mobilization of misogyny and misogynoir by the Trump administration along with racism. I
Uh-huh.
didn't see any mention or focus on this lynching.
Right.
See, we're being distracted by a kind of language that was meant to mobilize black middle class people into white institutions and political programs, and we're not attending to the violence that's happening in southern states throughout the Midwest.
You talk about Dr. Curry's talking about black bourgeoisie, okay, which Fraser wrote about in the 1950s.
And in various black communities where white people are taking over, where white people are marching into HBCUs under
Yeah.
the guise of free speech to tell black people that they're inferior.
They ain't snatched one. They ain't snatched one Keisha. Okay, Keisha makes up 75% of the HBCU, but they don't snatch one Keisha. Keisha ain't said shit about them white boys being in HBCU.
You have white people now saying that because black people are not going to be in institutions, they should be controlled in a managed population. This isn't just fascism. It's fascism, as I've said before, because white people are affected. We are seeing the deliberate cultural shift where black people are now thought to be a managed population that do not have the freedom and need to be prevented from resisting an uprising against the white majority.
Oh, very, very much so. Very much so. Very much so. Okay. You send Jamal to prison and give Keisha welfare. Okay, that's the plan.
So when we see this happen, I don't know if it's reverting back. I think that it's an amplification of the tendencies that's been there. And I want to be really clear about this. For the last 30 or 40 years, black scholars, black activists, black pundits, any black person that believed that racism was fundamentally there and was built off violence was silenced and not hired.
Say
This idea
it
that
again, black
black
man.
people are slaves and always will be
Say it again, black man. In other words, there was silence, right? And if it wasn't for the black manosphere, voices like Dr. Curry, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Neal, okay, a green gorilla would not be able to be heard. Okay, Dr. Johnson got 4 PhD. He just graduated 4 PhDs from the Black Male Studies program. Okay, this year that would have not have happened 5 years ago. It wasn't for Kevin and the Black Manosphere and Dr. Johnson and the PhDs in the space, that wouldn't happen. Basically, the pendulum will keep swinging in the other direction. Okay, but now the whole pendulum is swung back. Okay, the whole pendulum swung back is because the Black Manosphere and the Manosphere at large is a force to be reckoned with now.
From Afro-pessimism is the most polite version of what we've discussed in southern states literally since I was a child. Because you can say that black people are permanently oppressed or black people are forever the slave, but that's not the threat. The threat is when black people believe that they should be free and should be better than the condition that white people try to hold them in. And in Louisiana, where you have Deacons and where you had Huey P. Newton and you have a history of resistance, even by guns if necessary, that is a fundamentally different kind of thought. It's a different way of thinking about your relationship to your dominant oppressor. But we don't have conversations about that right now. We're constantly miseducated to believe that a political system or voting is going to remedy a problem that's built in the psyches of white people and what they think about black people. This country has never existed in a world where democratic freedom did not include the lynching and murder of black people, especially black men and boys, without abatement. It did not arrest, it never stopped. And we have to pretend that somehow we've made progress in this country. And in doing so, we've erased the fact that black people and black men are still dying and hanging from trees. So until we get our heads on straight and understand that our fate is tied together, black men, women, and children, black families and communities, against the white population that's trying to spell our doom, we are not going to be able to respond to this moment. And unfortunately, given what Trump's already done in less than a year, we don't even have the kinds of protections that were built up for us in the 60s and 70s to allow us to respond to this moment.
Which the thing is, unfortunately, millennials and Z's and A's are gonna have to relearn the lesson that the boomers and silent generation learned way back when. Okay, you put that stuff on pause, but like we're saying, it never went away. And you guys thought that everything was good. The coast is clear. We're just gonna lay back and we're gonna party and mix and all that kind of stuff without the precautions. Okay, and y'all let this stuff step by step leak back in. Okay. And then you're gonna blame the boomers, okay? We didn't let it leak back in, okay? We don't want to put the pause button on this stuff, and the boomers gonna get credit like it wasn't nothing. Like, oh, we shouldn't have mixed, we shouldn't have integrated, blah blah. Okay, kept telling you, okay, been telling you, okay. The boogeyman ain't dead yet, okay? That we put the stake in the vampire's heart, and you go in there and pull the stake out of the vampire's chest. What do you think he's gonna do? Ms. Delta said, keep teaching. Yep. Appreciate you, Ms. Delta. Ms. Delta knows what I'm talking about, right? He's from Mississippi. Okay. He know racism ain't dead yet. Okay. Okay. White supremacy is still alive. It's dying, but ain't dead yet. Okay. Yeah, you thought shit was sweet. Okay, they did. They used to tell me. Okay. Shit's sweet. Okay, no, okay, all right. Keep yeah, you gotta be vigilant, okay?
So we are put in a position where black male death is highly visible, and there are no moral consciences that are willing to listen or recognize what those deaths mean. So the only available option we have is to turn to ourselves to actually start understanding why black men consistently die and why that thirst among the white population seems to only be quenched when it sees the corpse of a black man hanging from a tree.
Yep.
Well, let's explore that a little bit more, because my question is, what is it about the black male specifically and the black male body specifically that makes the black male take the brunt of racial animosity in this country?
Now, Charlottesville doesn't scare them because them same women that hate them folks in Charlottesville, the same women go sleep with them same dudes, okay? Go sleep with the same dudes.
Man, there's lots of theories, man. I mean, Sedanius, he was an evolutionary psychologist, so he thought that all human conflict is basically a male on male battle. It's a war for men. Man against man. And there's there's lots of strong evidence for that. I mean, you have other brothers who think that it's psychological, that's an issue of the fear that black men inspire in white men. I mean, black male studies scholars kind of have we have different opinions about this. My view is that when you create societal hierarchies, they're going to focus on men because there's both competition for cultural reproduction and biological reproduction. But black men are largely unassimilatable within Western democratic societies.
True.
So the reasons, there's lots of different theories for why it happens. But the reality is that we haven't dedicated the resources to try to understand it. I mean, you have to think about this. We see that. I mean, historically, there were like 4,000 lynchings, and out of that, only 100 and less than 200 were black women. So that means that in the history of the United States, right, the majority of lynchings have overwhelmingly been men, and nobody has understood why. We won't even ask the question to dedicate the intellectual, much less the financial resources.
Even the doctor, not doctor, but the lead attorney was saying in Chicago, okay, around the country, there's um, they have black sites disappearing black men, young black men. Just snatch them off the street and you don't hear from them. No rule of law, no court appearance. You just snatch them off, right? And they put them in secret lockdowns even today. Okay, they're just more quiet about it.
To understand why black men seem to always be targeted by white supremacist societies. And this is what black male studies scholars have been attending to. Right? People like Sedanius and Felicia Prado say that patriarchy operates differently. That black men experience arbitrary set discrimination because that's what makes the subordinate male target hypothesis operate. That means that when you define an outgroup, you're going to define that outgroup, say it's terrorists. You're going to attack the men of that group. But what black male studies scholars are trying to say is like, yeah, but there's a highly sexualized component because you're not just killing black men. It's a ritual. It's a symbol. You're castrating them. You're
Yeah,
sexually assaulting them.
yeah.
So patriarchy operates to target these men as well. So it's
Shout out to Dr. Dr. Welsing, okay, Frances Cress Welsing, okay. She said the black penis was the most lethal weapon to white supremacy.
something beyond racism. And what we see in the Trump administration, and there was I wish I could remember the exact program, but in the Trump administration, there was this claim that they wanted to deport Mexican Latino men, but they want to keep the Latino women so they can
Yes,
reproduce with them. I think there's
yes,
someone in
yes.
California broadcasting this, and that speaks to the
Hey, that was me. Say my name, Dr. Curry. Say my name. In California, that was me. That was me. Yeah, we had a black teenager, Kendrick Johnson, found dead in a roll. Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. And Ahmaud Arbery. You know, shout out to Trump. Okay, they say a lot of bad things about Trump. Trump made Georgia put those cats in jail for Ahmaud Arbery. Okay, shout out to. I don't care what you say about Trump. Okay, there's one thing he did well during COVID. Okay, he sick the DOJ on these white folks doing this bullshit to black men. Okay, he did. You're just right, but yeah, big booty Latino. I'm the one in California that said they were deporting the men and keeping the women. Oh gosh, but they won't say my name though.
this dynamic that when you're trying to control the population, you have to get rid of the people that are going to resist. You have to get rid of the people that are not going to assimilate. You have to get rid of the people that you cannot manage through soft power.
Right.
And what we keep doing time and time again, despite seeing this play out in different scenarios across the world, is we ignore that fact. So when violence against black men happen or against black boys happen, you have some of our own people, some of our best and brightest minds in the
Yeah.
academy,
Yes.
some of our best and brightest minds that are journalists and pundits,
Yes, black man.
actually not saying anything about that because they can't themselves recognize the humanity of innocent black men and boys.
Yes, black
So
man.
black men and boys are targeted without any kind of reproach to the humanity of them that's lost. And this is the way that white supremacist patriarchal societies operate. So we keep publishing lies. We keep reading The Color Purple, but we dare not look out into our own society and try to figure out why is it that the death of black men always signals more political and racial repression for the group they belong to.
Yes.
There was a study done in 2017 about the intergenerational transmission of memory and trauma. The study
Yes.
was based in having interviews in the therapy sessions from Holocaust survivors and post-Holocaust representatives. And what was found in that study was, even if you did not directly were a victim of the Holocaust, if you were not in the death camps, if you were not victimized by the Third Reich, the descendants of people who were in camps faced
All you gotta do is look at penis size, boss. And black men are designated concubines. Okay. All over the world. Okay. An American black man is recognized as a sex machine and a concubine all over the planet.
trauma, whether it was anxiety, insecurity.
Mhm.
Even African men are jealous of American black men.
And there was a host of mental issues that some people who were the grandchildren of these people dealt with. If that's true for Holocaust survivors, it has to be extremely true for the survivors of chattel slavery in America. And I'd like to know,
Even African women that says African American men are Nitamo, okay, are sweet. Nitamo Sana, very sweet, okay?
what do you think about the fear instilled by the extrajudicial killing of Black men and how that affects the mental state of Black Americans in the present day and how we navigate our everyday lives?
Yeah, first off, I think the research on that is absolutely true. I think the epigenetic research that shows the transgenerational inheritance or transmission of trauma is absolutely correct. And we've seen actually when I was doing my master's in public health, I wrote several papers, several many articles on the effects of even police shootings on Black communities. So in communities where Black men were shot or Black people were shot, you had higher rates of anxiety, stress, allostatic load, cardiac issues, high blood pressure, right? Sleep deprivation. This is all true, right? The problem is we don't have a way to diffuse the environment, right? Like we are there are two things happening. We have Black men being taken out of environments and communities and being killed in the most gruesome way possible, right? The way they kill Black men in this country, you don't see any other group of people murdered in that way, right? We don't see pictures of white children laying dead on pavements, spitting up blood, or calling for their family. We don't see that, but we see that when it comes to Black men, right? We've seen those images of Trayvon Martin. We've seen those images of Mike Brown. So what that does is by identification with the victim, the Black community is pulled into that horror. It is, as I said in the Man Not, this is a way to discipline Black people
Yes.
so that you know that you too can be a victim of that kind of violence if you don't stay in line.
It's buck breaking, as Tariq Nasheed would say, okay? Uh, by sacrificing the Black man, you keep the rest of the population in line, especially the women.
And I have a very hard time believing that the people that we put in charge of discussing and studying these issues have accidentally, for the last 40 years, just not thought hard enough about what it means to see all these poor working class Black men killed in the streets of America by vigilantes and by police. So there's a real public health issue here because the mental stability, the mental optimality, the prevention of weathering, right, us not being like geriatrically affected by the kinds of trauma and violence that we see, these are real conversations that we have to have as a community. But we've been locked again into a political system where the only thing we care about is politics and political representation on the Democratic platform. We don't have social workers or public health, scholars and clinicians going into communities to try to address or at least alleviate some of the symptoms of this kind of traumatic violence. That's not. It's not even a conversation. So it becomes very difficult for us to deal with that imagery. I mean, look, when you look at young Black boys, I mean, some of the research I'm doing now for my next book, when you look at young Black boys and suicide ideation, it is directly tied to the internalization of negative stereotypes about Black men. So when young Black boys see Black men killed, when young Black boys see Black men incarcerated, when young Black boys hear the kind of negative stereotypes about Black men as being worthless or trash or body bags that we see from some professors at Ivy League institutions on Twitter, when young Black boys see that, it decreases their own self-worth. It creates negative thinking and a negative self-ideation model that spurs things like depression, anxiety, and suicide ideation. So we live in a society that's not only attacking Black people, but specifically attacking Black boys. And we don't have a response to that trauma because we're not studying that trauma. There are very few clinicians that have any idea about anti-Black misandry, much less willing to acknowledge that it exists, despite all the data we have on racial battle fatigue, on negative self-conception, and we know empirically that suicide ideation among young Black boys is the highest. They're among the highest demographic and have the highest incidences of even attempted suicide. So we are a people floundering in a social political world that have people that give you lots of thoughts. We have lots of pundits, but we don't have lots of people with the specialties that can actually alleviate the health crisis, the mental health crises that we're experiencing as a people because of white supremacy and racism. And we can't even speak about the vigilante violence because we're not even organized anymore to even address what happens when racist whites come into our communities because we don't have the lawyers that are defending them in a world where we actually have white lawyers and white politicians saying that it's okay for white people to practice free speech, right, their term, and harass Black people, right? This is it's 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 almost laughable that you can have a group of people fight from slavery, fight through Jim Crow, fight for civil rights.
Yeah. Anybody that's an academic has gone to school with Black women, they can tell you that this figure here is very accurate, right? Right next to Becky. right next to Becky. And guess who's holding the torch? Okay, the white Klansman, and the and Keisha. Okay, holding the torch, and got the cops and Becky for backup.
All the time we're losing people. None of this is peaceful for us. We're not white feminists. We didn't just march and then say we demand rights and they write it into a bill. Our people died. Our men died. Our women died. Families lost fathers and mothers and children, right? Because they believed in the idea of freedom. And you're telling me in less than 40 years we forget what all that violence is. You're telling me in 40 years we will tolerate white supremacists telling us that our leaders are somehow bad because Martin Luther King had orgies of cheating on.
And when you send your children to the oppressor's school system, what do you think is going to come out on the other side? What do you think is going to come out? That's obvious. That's obvious. Okay. When you send your children to the oppressor's school system and you don't give them an alternative education, you're gonna get this, okay? Even HBCUs, they're just as bad, okay? They're not exempt.
This white. Like it's unbelievable.
HBCUs were never meant to educate black people, okay? HBCUs actually set up to educate the children of the slave master, okay?
Evil to me that we live in a world where we can see black people being killed by white people, and nothing in us immediately jumps to defend the humanity of the black people who are victimized by the people who have historically oppressed us and enslaved us for centuries. And we think somehow we're being intellectual when we disassociate ourselves from the reality of that violence. That's disgraceful because there's not. I can tell you by living in Europe, there's not a single white group, be they Polish, be they French, be it Britons or British. There's not a single group of people that do not wear their ethnic group on their arm. There's not a single one. So they'll speak greatly and
Yeah,
positively.
to me, it's not the nose ring; it's the cap and gown. Notice she's wearing a cap and gown. Okay, she's not don't have tats and all that kind. She got a cap and gown. He knows what he's talking about.
About Europe, but they will invest all their energy in developing Italy or Poland or Britain. So now you take that mind that right some of the most prosperous nations in the world are ethnocentric
Yeah,
or ethno-nationalists in fact.
yeah, that's true.
But then you go back to America and you can't even get black people across class divisions to value the lives of each other. You have Europeans willing to go to war with other Europeans if they cross the wrong border without if they don't have a treaty in place in the EU.
That's true.
But you can't even get black Americans when they're being killed by their oppressor. The same group of people that enslaved them, the same group of people that wanted Jim Crow segregationism, the same group of people that in majority voted for Donald Trump when he said, this is what I'm going to do. You can't even get black people to become solidified and unified against that immediate threat.
Because we're never solidified. Okay, people have this idea that we're or as actually an organic whole. No, we're actually an amalgamated people. We're actually created by white people. Until we actually get to that and get inside that and understand that, it's not going to change. Okay, you are created by white people. Okay, you do not have an organic culture. Your culture is created by your oppressor. You're going to have to do something to change that. Eh, why do you think it works the way it works and it works to be destructive? It works to actually oppress black men, okay? Because that's the way it was actually designed to do it. You haven't changed that shit, okay? Your women are working exactly as they were designed to actually work, okay? Uh, uh, kiss up behind Becky and look down on you and keep you under control. I said, it's going around that Toni Morrison mentored Jeff Bezos' ex, Mackenzie Scott. That is why she donates to HBU. I'm not surprised, okay? Toni Morrison actually told a lot of truth, okay? Because she actually gave back is because the black men in her family sacrificed themselves to actually send her to school. Otherwise, she'd have been a maid. Okay? Her brothers, her father, her uncles, and her brothers actually uh, took menial jobs to send her to school. This is why she has a more of a heart for black men than most authors.
So there is no response beyond trying to re-educate black people, but at the same time you're trying to re-educate and re-socialize and bring black people together. You have the same other groups of black people saying we don't need to do that. So the only predictable consequence of that is going to be the loss of more black life. And it's upsetting and it's nonsensical because we're so removed from reality. We've retreated to the recesses of middle classdom, and we
Yes,
don't want to understand what violence actually looks like in our society. And that's the tragedy.
they know what it looks like. They ignore it. Okay, they ignore it. They overlook it. Okay, which is the same thing that I've just started reading the Black Bourgeoisie. Okay, they attacked um, Frazier for saying the exact same thing that Dr. Tommy's talking about. Okay, he saw that back with the so-called bourgeoisie trying to integrate into whiteness. Okay, and doing having certain traits. Okay, and ignoring certain things. Okay, being willing to put up with violence because they actually wanted to integrate into whiteness. Okay, they did.
The tragedy is us not recognizing that when we watch for a decade, all these young boys be started in the street, what was coming. That we can look at someone like Mr. Reed hung from a tree in Mississippi and nobody starts to protest or much less says anything because we're so repressed by the system, right? That we're willing to accept that loss. And that attitude, that apathy.
It wasn't just a black woman's family because she ain't got that much money. Okay, it had to be the whole family. Whole family had to get scammed out of that. So, which does happen. Okay, it's not just her. Okay, it was $100,000, maybe 200. I doubt it. 500K. That's the whole family. Okay, nobody gets scammed out $500,000 unless the whole family's involved. Okay. High school two big brothers, the black female classmates in 1990. Hey, that I was voted as. Yeah, I know. Clark and Moynihan and Frazier said in 1940, 75% of the valedictorians and class presidents were black female. You're not supposed to hold those kinds of outside of preacher. You're not supposed to hold any kind of rank. Okay.
That indifference towards Black Death, where it's not spectacular anymore, it's not aberrational or boring. That's what's going to lead us into crisis because it means that the only way we think we're going to get out of this is to yet again appeal to white liberals who at the moment have nothing
See,
to say,
see,
right?
see.
And it's
What he's saying, the appeal to white liberals. That's what black women are doing, right? Okay, aggressive begging to white liberals.
a disgrace to what we think Black politics actually.
Even which is why I'm not, even though I understand what ADOS is about, okay, I'm not with him because it's a appealing, it's a begging to white liberals, okay, in my opinion. Shout out to Yvette Carnell and pressing the case, but you're begging the white liberals, okay? You're not really doing business, in my opinion.
Is and should be.
Do you think that modern day black people in America are possibly avoiding this issue because if we had to face that issue, then we would have to see a sea change in the way we move politically and what we
Yeah,
see as defense.
yes.
Because if you look at the history, as you said, even though we're dealing with this in the modern day, it was far worse in the 1920s up to the 1950s and 60s. And even in the midst of all that, there were black men and black women who said that we need to defend ourselves, and there were organizations
Absolutely.
formed, whether it was the Black Panther.
You had no choice. It's either that or death, okay? When the environment changed, you got to change, okay? That's how come they softened it, okay? Because they had to. And plus, back in the 1920s, they were trying to keep you back on the fucking plantation. They didn't want you. They didn't want all the black folks leaving the fucking plantation. No, they needed you there because you made too much fucking money. It wasn't just racism. It's called economics. Okay, they didn't want all their sharecroppers to start leaving the land. Okay, that's insane. Of course, they're gonna repress you and burn down your businesses. Okay, they don't want you having them up until the 1960s. Okay, well now you can have them because we don't need you on the land anymore. It's called money.
There's the Deacons for Defense and other groups that may have been smaller, didn't have that much notoriety. So what's the difference between then and now that we won't even think about those alternatives?
But Black people don't love each other anymore, right? We've been socialized to believe that the greatest threats to Black people are other Black people.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, because we think we're safe. We knew that white man could lynch you for walking on a sidewalk. Okay, you had to adhere to it. Okay, you had no choice, especially your women. Had no choice. Okay, you know that white man was gonna use you and abuse you and throw you back on the other side of the tracks and knock you up and get pregnant. You had to bring that white baby home to that man, or starve. They knew.
And we fundamentally believe that. You can pick up any Black Studies journal, right, and you will find that argument. You see, this is the problem. The problem is that when white liberals made the pact of Title VII and start saying we'll redistribute goods like jobs, capital, affirmative action, access to institutions, right? They picked who they wanted. They
Yeah, they
wanted
did.
the few black men who
Yeah.
were going to be liberals and disown black radicalism. So you saw this in the Harvard Project back in the day with Skip Gates focusing on literary criticism rather than sociology, history, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Right, saying that they were the true nationalists because they were the ones that made it and became ultra successful capitalists. Right,
Mm-hmm.
and and you see, of course, as we talked about before, with intersectionality and black feminism, right?
Yes.
So what did it do? It's not just about those ideologies, right? It's not
There was Pauli Murray and Eleanor Roosevelt. Okay, I cannot emphasize that enough. Okay, the shit was planned. Okay, and and these four people. Okay, even though you sacrificed yourself for civil rights and won it. Okay, luckily got it approved. Okay, these this group stole your birthrights. Okay, and then the white man protected it. But this group, these two right here, okay, they pretty much made the civil rights null and void. You all the conservatives and neocons and neoliberals, okay, that came out of 1964, 65 because they didn't want black men to have any power. That's when everything changed.
just picking on those ideologies. It's a question of the class status that it afforded people within structures. Right. So black feminism became a way for us to say black nationalism, black revolutionary ideas, black violence, right? Black militant resistance is fundamentally bad. It's not to be trusted. It's patriarchal. Right. Even though these men, and this is what Sylvia Wynter says, right? That even that you had these black feminists saying that you shouldn't trust these working class black men, but you had black women in the organization, you had black men dying to protect black women and their families. Right. This
Mm-hmm.
is the testimony of even black women who were part of the New Republic of Africa.
Yes.
Right. So you got a middle class version of radicalism that
Yeah.
was built on coalitions and dependency. Right. So that meant that no longer are we going to be able to talk about militant black resistance or even black communities led by women, right, who fundamentally defended black men and boys given this kind of targeting that they've experienced historically, because now that's patriarchal, right?
Yes. Yep.
And you have this other issue where you have leading black male scholars and political figures, right? And you put Jesse Jackson in this just as well, right? Where you now have this kind of diffusion of black rage that's upset about oppression.
Oh
That's
yeah, yeah. I told you with the boomers, man, they wanted to fuse two things. They wanted to diffuse radical white men that refused this militaristic empire, okay, and also black men that actually led the whole charge, okay, with civil rights. They diffused that and handed it over to the women, okay. The thing is, the white boys made off with the middle class jobs and the money, and black men suffered.
that we're going to embrace the gradualism, and over time things will come, things will change. And Brother Jackson is at the end of his life.
Yes.
He's an old man now.
Yep.
And the same things he said at the beginning of his career that he fought for are now coming back to haunt him. So when he dies, he will die in an America that has less freedom, less rights, less protections for black people than when he was marching in the streets
Hopefully
in
not.
the 67. So no, people are not going to approach this issue because it threatens their pockets. And no,
Yes.
black people in the academy, right, who we usually end up having these arguments with in social media and even in commentary, because now, public commentary and punditry and journalism is just a reflection of the conversations that go on in the university,
Oh
unfortunately.
my goodness.
Right? These people don't see themselves reflected in working class black people.
Ooh,
You see,
it's classism. Yeah, that's the bourgeoisie.
the real difference is you have black male studies scholars that are willing to talk about this issue and talk about the deaths of black men and boys because they're from working class communities. Every single one of the black male studies scholars that I've trained, right, come from poverty, come from their first generations. And these are people that academies and universities, research one university said don't belong here because overwhelmingly the black people that are in the academy are middle class. I'm first generation. I come from Southern poverty. So the sensibility of what we're discussing when we talk about the hatred of racism isn't simply based on us disagreeing or not getting a job. We're talking about people who are poor, where if they disappear, nobody cares. We're talking about the brother in the family, like Mr. Trey Reed, who was killed, where Colin Kaepernick had to come in and pay for the autopsy because the family couldn't afford it.
Yeah, that's true. And also, hell, you got black women. Okay, you have black women in especially during the crack era, sacrificing their sons and their boyfriends and their husbands to go out on the corner and sell crack to bring the money home. And when they went to prison, okay, they forgot about them. because they're disposable. Okay, look at what's his name um, that got married, and her first two baby daddies were drug dealers, right? Okay, she got married to a star and moved on. Don't even talk about them, right? Because they're disposable. And Keisha is Pauli Murray's descendant, and the Becky is Eleanor. Yeah, the National Organization of Women was started by Pauli Murray and Eleanor Roosevelt. Go look it up. Okay, they won't tell you that. They won't tell you that. Okay.
See, those people, those working
Lori Harvey don't. Lori Harvey never mentions her father. Okay. Lori Harvey does not talk about her father. Okay. She took on Steve Harvey's last name. Okay. That is not her original name. That is not his biological daughter. Okay. Her father was a drug dealer. Okay. High level drug dealer. Moved weight. Okay. Was a trafficker. But you will not hear Lori Harvey mention her father. Okay. So when they hold Lori Harvey up as this angel, okay, it's bullshit. Okay. Same thing with Cheyenne Bryant. Okay. At least she will admit that her father was a drug dealer. Okay. I have so much knowledge of the root of all this muck because of BGS and VHS. Thank you for the time and teaching, master teacher. Okay. Black men have always been disposable. Okay. To black women, always. Okay. The thing is, prior to 1960, they needed us because they would not survive without us. And when they didn't need us anymore, they left us. Okay, that's why the average black marriage only lasts 5 years. They don't want to be married. They don't want you. Not why Uncle Sam is taking care of them. No, they don't want you. But nobody wants to talk about that. You, a football player, distracted, speeding, the cops, so his mom wouldn't get a ticket. Yeah, now he's in jail. Yeah, that's what we're taught. We're taught to be disposable. Yeah, like you see that cop. You can see the turn. Okay, like that cop man bumping into those football players. Okay, acting like he was the man because he's wearing a uniform. Anyhow,
as black people that receive the brunt of white horror, terrorism, and indifference and violence, those people are not reflected in the minds of middle class black people. That's why they're never the focus of position papers. That's why they're never the focus of marches. That's why nobody really cares. And you can go on TV and argue about who's getting more goddamn news coverage.
Yeah, black women are losing jobs left and right, man. Becky is throwing black women overboard, man. They really are. Becky is throwing Keisha overboard as we speak. Okay.
Because the number of black people, you don't think that your group is getting covered enough for dying. Right? This is the problem that's been created by us becoming passive to what we think we deserve. Instead of us arguing for full freedom, we've accepted a freedom where we just accept.
Turn what around, man? What are you trying to turn around, man? Okay. Sometimes you can turn the boat around, and sometimes it's time to get on a lifeboat. Okay. If the boat is sinking, turn it around. It's not going to do any good. And this whole country, okay, not just white folks are in fucking trouble right now. Okay. Globally, white folks are in trouble. Globally, white folks are in trouble. Okay. What does that mean for you? And you're going to try to save Keisha in a sinking ship. Okay. Good luck. You got to read the room. Okay. There's an 80-20 or 20% of us are still good women. Well, 20% need to speak up and stop hiding.
Certain groups or certain numbers of black people have to die at the hands of white people. And because those are largely poor black men and boys, we said that's a cost that we're willing to accept. We can write the check. Let's move into the academy. Let's move into political office. Let's say that we've made progress. Right. And this is something that Derek Bell told me before he died. I never forget it. I actually still have the letter because I was gonna put it in my book. He said, Tommy, there's gonna be hell to pay because of Obama. He's like, there's gonna be hell to pay for an America that has to see itself ruled by a black man when it still fundamentally believes in white supremacy and white power. And even though he's been gone for, I mean, almost going on 2 decades now, that still rings true. So there have been black intellectuals that have been telling the truth. But even when they've told the truth, they've been pushed out of the fields that they created.
Yes.
Richie Delgado, Linda Green, Kenneth Nunn, Derek Bell, right? That's what the first generation of critical race theorists were saying. They weren't talking about coalitions and intersectionality because they didn't believe that law would deliver equality. But you replace that, right? You replace that by moving certain groups of critical race theorists into elite Ivy League universities, giving them big paychecks, making them world pundits and pushing their theories all around the world. And nobody can even question. So if you say
Even
that certain groups
even
of
Francis Chris,
people,
even Frances Cress Welsing, she was considered a pariah with mainstream Black studies
absolutely.
until she got close to death and everything. Now I hear a lot of her studies and a lot of the things she said.
It's coming back to haunt us, right? Look at as black men spread out globally, right? Okay. The BBC is all the rage in Asia, okay? Ask the brothers over there in Thailand and China and Japan, okay? They can't even go to the freaking shower without them looking, okay? The BBC, the fear of the BBC is global. The American BBC is a global fear, okay?
Being coming out of the mouths of people who were never even touching that.
Well, no, because but it's the same thing. They try to assassinate her character. They said because she had, what, offensive and pathological views of same-sex couples, right? That none of her work should ever be read. But they don't say anything about Audre Lorde. They don't
True.
say anything about her views, her lies,
Facts,
her distrust, manipulation, her sexual coercion.
facts. Audre Lorde is the re-embodiment of Pauli Murray.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm tired of the fact we are our own worst enemy. We will say that someone's not a good person and then use that only when they're a male to disqualify them, or if they're not part of the liberal pack. Cress Welsing was an African-centered scholar. She believed very seriously in the idea that the races were at war and that the violence and oppression that Black people suffered could be predicted on the basis of both the psychological and cultural biological dispositions of the white race.
Yep.
Right? Do I agree with that completely? No. Times have changed, theories have changed. I have the benefits of some science that she didn't have back then. But is the thesis, is the ideal correct? Absolutely. Is he trying to explain a phenomenon that we're witnessing even today? Absolutely. So why does this person have to be censored from the annals of Black intellectual thought, right? But we welcome Audre Lorde, right? We welcome Bell Hooks, despite the egregious things she said. It's sickening how we met. People have chairs in Heidegger studies, and he was a goddamn Nazi.
Heidegger was a Nazi. Yeah, Heidegger was a Nazi, full-fledged. Yes, he was. Yeah.
So white people can find insights into the existential phenomenology of a Nazi, but we disown our own people if they don't have the right identity politic in the 70s and 80s of what.
Ukraine is full of Nazis throwing people in the cars and vans and hauling them to the front line, and nobody's saying shit. Okay. But Trump is a Nazi. But Zelensky is this poor guy attacked by Russia. Okay. And they hauling out people to the front lines, and they can't fight, old men, young men, and throwing them into vans and hauling them to the front line to die. Okay, but there's Nazis over here. Get the fuck out of here.
We want to comport now. It's we are a people trying to confront a problem. We are a people with very few resources, right? With very little power. So the idea that we can somehow wait this out and just take the losses, the sacrifices of these young Black boys and these Black families and these Black women, right? Because as we just saw in the video with the Black woman that was denied care when she was in labor for 30 minutes an hour, right? White woman's indifferent, right? Like the world is telling us what it thinks about
our U.S. funds hit chopping jihadists, man. They don't care. Y'all think America? Y'all think these leaders in America are moral, man? They're black pill to the gills. Okay, ends justify means.
our people, and we don't even. And at this point, we don't even have those inner resources to compensate for what the world's taking from us. And it's a sad thing to see, from the other side of the ocean now.
I want to get into a little bit of what you talked about earlier. Some of the other aspects of lynching as we know it that have moved maybe from the physical into the psychological and the spiritual. And I want to talk about castration. In a way, it seems like physical castration of a Black man's genitalia has moved into psychological castration.
It has. Okay, it has.
Social, political, and economic castration. A lot of American politics, they sell this idea that everybody can be inclusive to the point where intersectionality kind of feels like something that everybody can pick from. If you feel like you're an oppressed person, there's a place for you in the field of intersectionality or in the world of intersectionality where you can find a place to build on. But Black men are even excluded from that, even though the
Yeah.
data and the studies and all of the statistics say that we are still living at the bottom of every socioeconomic metric for the most part. But can you talk a little bit about that social, political, and economic exclusion that also ostracizes and castrates Black men psychologically and the community at large?
I mean, absolutely, man. I mean, look, one of the last pieces that Richard Wright wrote was Man of All Work. And, James Baldwin mentions this, quite fondly because he says that he thinks that, this is what Wright got correct outside of his, kind of reveling in violence. And the point was very simple. The point was that as a black man in America, you will be excluded from basically every positive institution, be it education, work, and in some cases, religion. And Wright said the only way for a black man to get a job was basically to turn himself into a woman.
Ooh,
And in the
ooh,
short story,
ooh.
he disguised.
Oh my God. Oh, I remember hearing this one, okay? The only way for a black man to get a fucking job, especially in corporate America, is to turn himself into a woman. Ain't that a bitch, okay? Ain't that a bitch? And guess what? Uh, the black female HRs are saying the exact same thing, okay? If you got to be non-threatening, you got to be metrosexual. That should be get into corporate America to get a raise. You got to be non-threatening. Okay, black men have to basically hold their hats. Okay, and turn themselves into a woman. Okay, that a bitch.
He puts on a dress, disguises himself as a woman, and the only way he's able to work is to basically be a
I,
maid.
I,
And what ends up
I read
happening
it
is
back.
Castration of a black man's genitalia has moved into psychological castration, social, political, and economic castration. A lot of American politics, they sell this idea that everybody can be inclusive to the point where intersectionality kind of feels like something that everybody can pick from. If you feel like you're an oppressed person, there's a place for you in the field of intersectionality or in the world of intersectionality where you can find a place to build on. But Black men are even excluded from that, even though the
yeah.
data and the studies and all of the statistics say that we are still living at the bottom of every socioeconomic metric for the most part. But can you talk a little bit about that social, political, and economic exclusion that also ostracizes and castrates Black men psychologically and the community at large?
I mean, absolutely, man. I mean, look, one of the last pieces that Richard Wright wrote was Man of All Work. And, James Baldwin mentions this,
Man of all work. Okay, okay. That's where it gets from. James Baldwin commenting on Richard Wright's last book. Okay.
quite fondly because he says that he thinks that, this is what Wright got correct outside of his, kind of reveling in violence. And the point was very simple. The point was that as a black man in America, you will be excluded from basically every positive institution,
Mm,
be it education, work, and in some
mm,
cases, religion.
mm.
And Wright said the only way for a black man to get a job was basically to turn himself into a woman.
Oh, 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 oh. Richard Wright. Okay. Got to find that one.
And in the short story, he puts on a dress, disguises himself as a woman, and the only way he's able to work is to basically be a maid. And what
I mean, look. Go back and look at look like Hakeem Jeffries and the other guy running for governor. Okay, how soft they, how soft they are, how soft they approach. Uh, Barack Obama. Barack Obama was one of the few that I could actually say had a swagger. Okay, which is why the white women voted for him. But he's one of the few, and that's like Michelle tries to tear him down constantly. Okay, look at Michelle Obama's brother. Okay. 6'6", and look how soft spoken he is. Okay, when he's around her.
ends up happening is with him with the dress on, the white man tries to rape him. The white husband
Hmm.
that he's working in the house for tries to rape him. And the lesson that Wright's trying to explain here is that, and this is something that's actually taken up by Anthony Lamell Jr., right? A queer Afrocentric scholar.
Mm,
But he says that look, the process of black men being ostracized, castrated,
mm,
right,
mm,
barred from participating in society,
mm,
is a process of feminization. But the black man will never be seen as a woman or treated like a woman because he will always still be the rapist, right?
mm.
And Baldwin has a
Wow,
really powerful piece
wow.
in his nonfiction. I like his nonfiction much more than his fiction because we get to trace the arguments. But he just says, look, at any point that a white man decides that a black man is trying to act like a man and
Ooh,
resist and assert himself as being a full-fledged human being in the world,
ooh,
he'll cut his penis off.
ooh.
And he says that the way that you know that you arrive in the South is because the red clay of the South is stained with centuries of blood of black men hanging from trees with their penises cut off. We are not dealing with a new problem. We are not dealing with groups of black men that are trying to reclaim masculinity or whatever nonsense black feminists say about black men.
Nah, Barack Obama was a ball player. He was a basketball player. Okay, uh, in elementary, middle school, and high school, he was a ball player. That's where he got his swagger from. That's very natural for even white guys that play basketball have a swagger.
What we are dealing with is a condition of dehumanization where black men, and by effect, black people, are being regressed socially and economically to a position of being managed.
United Kingdom is not being invaded by immigrants. Okay, United Kingdom has a low birth problem. Okay, I think that the white people in the UK, I think their birth fertility rate is like 1.1. Okay, and they cannot survive as an economic power if they don't import people. Okay, especially after World War II when a lot of Brits got killed, they had to import people to rebuild. They're not being invaded; they're invited. It's like saying Canada's being invited by migrants. No, they're not. They've been invited. Appreciate you, Mark Swift. Okay. Also, actually talk about James Baldwin and Richard Wright. Okay.
By a white majority population. And in doing so, it means that the imagery of wealth and progress will fade away. Because insofar as you decrease the wealth of black men, and this was the study that was done by Chetty and Hendren a long time ago, that the racial gap in wealth is pushed by the discrimination against black men and other groups of men in the job force. So it means that they are creating a structural back.
Everybody knows Barack Obama's background, TY7. Okay. Everybody knows it. Okay. We're not here to talk about Barack Obama. Okay. I am very studied in Barack Obama's background. Okay. Very studied. He's not an accident. Okay. Taco stand and the Winter Soldier chip disposal fee. I needed this vid. Been dealing with many shades of issues spoken about. I noticed that even in service sector, BWs would disrespect. Oh yeah, now I know why. Zaddy back. Oh yeah. Well, um, uh, Keisha was never your woman, man. I keep saying that, but people don't want to get that. Okay. Keisha never been your woman. Keisha's always been a white man's woman. He was brought here to be his concubine. Okay.
Barrier to black people as a whole from accumulating wealth and being able to mobilize up the social ladder. And I think that until we get our heads around what social castration, feminization, and what we call it phallicism in black male studies, but what it means to institutionally decimate black men out of education, economics, and the job market, we're not going to understand racial oppression. And that's really the issue, brother. We don't understand the system of oppression that's actually directed to us because we're offering theories that have no kind of relevance to the reality and the deaths we keep observing with our own two eyes.
Having said that, I want to move into something that you've spoken about before and something that I've observed when these conversations take place, or even in the way people move when we talk about black men. I have a theory, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I think that everything you said and this history of brutality and dehumanization of black men have basically created a situation where everyone in America, everyone in Western, I won't say Western society, but mostly in America, has this idea that they've accepted this idea of the black boogeyman, which basically means that any black boy, any black man, no matter how big they are, no matter how slim they are, no matter what they look like, if you are black and you are male, in American society, you are automatically perceived as a potential boogeyman. And the only way that you can be dealt with is either to be contained, controlled, or destroyed by the state or by the agents of the state. And this is what's interesting to me, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this.
Or being feminized by the state. Okay.
That mentality has permeated black society, black American society, to the point where anybody of any gender or ethnicity, even if you are black, can participate in that process. Do you think that's true or no?
No, I think that's true. I think all the evidence points to that. I mean, listen, the difference, I think the difference in having a theory versus having an explanatory framework or conceptual model is that we see lots and lots.
That's why black women love thugs and criminals, is because to them they haven't been feminized, or haven't turned into effeminate males, or a symbol of effeminate males. That's why they love them. That's why they love the Pookies and the drug dealers and the guys carrying, the what they call the Glocktavius, as Don Calypso says, with the tattoos and the sagging pants, right? It's because to in a black woman's mind, they have not been feminized or effeminized by the state. That's why they love them.
Evidence for the fact that black men have to be managed or have to be killed.
Yes.
And what I'm saying,
managing is to feminize them, or killing them is sending them to prison, or offing them, or disposing of them.
It is, look, you can go all the way back to Robert Staples. You go back to James Stewart's work. The dehumanization of a people happens through men first. That's just a fact. I don't. There's not even a contradiction.
I didn't say they could keep them because they're disposable and they're destructive, but that's why they love them. It's not a contradiction, okay? The two things can be true at the same time, okay? Like I said, you love all the bad stuff, okay? As far as food comes, there's always a food that you love that's bad for you, and you know it's bad for you. But the thing is, you want it, and you love it, but you don't. But it's not good for you. So you eat what you need, and you dabble with what you love. Black women love compromised male because they haven't been. They've been rejected by the white superstructure for the most part, okay? Unless you get those rare few, like I said, Tupac in a suit.
Theory that I know of that says anything different. So what we are seeing in America is that pattern. What Adam Jones called gendercide, what Earl Miller called male marginalization, what Sedanius calls supporting male target hypothesis, what Black male studies scholars call anti-Black misandry or misandric aggression.
Right.
This is what we're dealing with. It is just a fact. You have, for the last 40 years, you've had people try to explain it. And we don't have an answer to it because we keep disowning it. You see, recognizing this form of dehumanization, if we recognize that Black men are monsters, right? If we recognize that aspect of dehumanization means that they're always going to be targeted.
Okay, I don't like Twinkies. I like chocodiles, man. I like my Twinkies covered in chocolate. Okay, I'm sorry.
Always excluded, always murdered, dismembered, etc. Then it changes the landscape of how we study racism. Because if we put the male target in the center and then start saying, well, then why does violence reverberate through all these other institutions? Then a lot of the liberal politics that people have made their careers off of, a lot of the talking points that many people on television have, most of the stuff that white liberals are saying, like their arguments about diversity and inclusion, all that fades away because it shows that you made those pacts, you made those deals on the back of the deaths of Black men and boys.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Elaine Brown says in her book, The Condemnation of Little B. Is that they made a pact where they're going to incarcerate, kill, murder, and demonize working class Black men so that they can dispel them from the civil rights idea. They can form basically economic or political pacts with liberal whites. Every piece of evidence we have, sociologically, economically, and even from the testimonies of ex-Panther women, right? Kathleen Cleaver says the same thing, right? Tells us this is the case. But you'll never have the liberals.
If I have to choose between ho-hos, I'll choose ding-dongs between ho-hos and ding-dongs. Ding-dongs are old school.
Institutions that support Black thinkers admitted. And I think that's what we're up against. We're not just up against white supremacy. We're up against the active miseducation and political ideology of a group of Black people that don't see the violence against poor Black people as being the deal breakers for their pacts with liberal white America. And now that conservatives are in power, there's nothing to halt the brakes on the absolute demolition of Black homes.
The thing is, even though I understand politically what he's saying, but the thing is, structurally they can't do it. It's because they need Black men to go back into the labor force and help rebuild this United States. Okay, it's because you can't afford to oppress Black men anymore. It's because you need them to get out there and get them jobs and get out on the streets and start building this infrastructure for this modern society they actually want to build. Okay, otherwise they're gonna fall behind. Okay, you don't have enough people. Okay, you ain't got enough people, especially you ain't got enough men to actually go out there and with skills that you go out and do this work. So they have to. That's the only thing gonna stop them. Okay, just like they needed you to put you out in the fields to make money for them, you got to do the same thing with in these streets, in these buildings, in this infrastructure. Okay, they need you, so they're gonna spend money. It's the only place where I agree with them. Trust and believe them white people want to uh, uh, cast you out and discriminate against you, but they need them black bodies to go out there and build America again. Okay, that's why they sitting Becky's ass down and promoting black men. So this is your time, even though the conservatives are in charge right now. But the thing is, structurally, they don't have much choice. Okay, they can't be the old white supremacy could actually afford to oppress you. Okay, in fact, the old white supremacy needed uh, 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 Jasper and all these other kind of folks on that plantation to actually bring in that money to actually keep capitalism going. Okay, and they needed black folks and black bodies in them Japanese islands because the white boys are getting their asses whipped. Okay, they needed these them black bodies in Vietnam. Okay, because them black people, them white people could not fight in that environment. Okay, when they need you, they come get you. Okay, this is the point where they need you. That's how come they gave you civil rights, because they need you. Okay, and when they started dismantling the infrastructure and shipping it over to Asia after they made their deal with China, okay, then they started putting you in prison. But now they need you again. Take your advantage. But don't. But what I'm saying is, uh, take the carrot, man, but cut the string. Okay, because the carrot is dangled from a hook from a string. So cut that string when you take that carrot. Yeah, the white boys can't read either.
Communities, wealth, and even Black lives. And that's just where we are right now.
All right. I want to move the conversation along, but while I'm doing that, I want to leave space for a brief Q&A with Dr. Curry. So if anybody in the audience has any questions for Dr. Curry,
Okay.
send your request in now. I
All
won't take
right.
up too much of his time because he's in a different time zone.
All
But
right. Okay. We're gonna stop it right there. Okay. I started to play this yesterday, but you guys, I put the link in the chat. I'll put the link in the chat again. You guys can go watch the last. I think it's last 20 minutes or so. Go watch it there. The thing is, culture is one thing, but environment is another. Okay. In other words, white people and the white West is trying to survive. Okay. They can't afford to oppress you like they once did. Okay. But guess who hasn't got the memo? Keisha ain't got the memo yet. She will. Becky ain't got the memo yet. She will. That's like they can't stand Trump. Okay. Do I trust the Joker being Mayor Gotham? No. But the thing is, Trump, as Joker, knows exactly where the black pill truth is. Okay. He ain't got no choice. Trump. That's like Trump is opening up all kinds of educational opportunities for black men. Is because he has to. They don't have to like you. Illiteracy is not racial. No, I do basically. I had a whole documentary about fourth graders that can't read, and none of them faces were black. None of them faces were black. Trust and believe. Okay, it is a huge problem. Okay, and they feminized the whole school system, and it's backfiring on them. Anyhow, let me get out of here, folks. Appreciate the super chats and the support. Okay. Um, Okay, you guys wanted me to do something else, or uh was it about Keisha passport? No, not even passport Keisha. Talking about the Nigerian Keisha getting scammed. I might do that one. Might do that one Friday if I don't, or Thursday. If I want to do an open like a mini coliseum tomorrow, so I might do that tomorrow, and I might do the one about Keisha on Friday. Yeah, there's a lot of white boys who can't read, man. White boys and white girls is because of the way that they're teaching them. They're in fourth grade, can't read. Generation A is horrible in reading. Eh, you have a whole bunch of functionally illiterate kids coming up right now. Okay, by the way they're teaching them. I could do that later, but we'll see. Okay, what is this Wednesday? It's Wednesday, man. I'm losing track of days, man. When you always get off your schedule, you lose track of what day it is. Don't think about not working. Okay, not working the 9 to 5. Okay, you start to lose track of your days. Well, you see KK Keisha right there, right? You see her right? You see KK Keisha right there in her with a septum ring in her cap and gown, right? It's more than that. They said about 40. Palm Beach Mike. It's about 40% of your kids coming up are illiterate. Anyhow, let me get out of here, and I will see you guys later. I'm gonna give you your favorite black man, okay?
And with that, I just have two more words to say. Obama out.
Muzyka Denis Siedem.